Wednesday, May 29th. Man, where did the month of May go?
Fast as April went, it seems, man.
Yeah, here we go. We're at May, end of May, man, which means it's almost to my birthday, but
Ooh.
nobody wants to hear about that because we want to talk Broncos with you. It's Wednesday night, MHI. He is Thomas Hall. I am Luke Patterson, getting ready for a jam-packed show of some Broncos news, some former Broncos news, if you will, on the wire today and both this week. And before we do any of that, let's say what's up to the folks in the chat and Thomas Hall. Tom, how we feeling?
Better than last Wednesday, but still sick. Not quite over it yet. It will not go away. It's a 2 week sickness from what I can tell. So, but
We need to get
better.
a hashtag Tom's Robitussin fee
Yes,
or
yeah,
something in here. Like we
man.
gotta get you some cough syrup. We gotta get you some cough drops. Some sleep. I'm over there. I'm before the show starting. I'm telling Tom, you might want to take some time, man. You got to be feeling better. I know you're feeling good about a first round quarterback over here in the Broncos, just like
Of course,
everybody else. Wondering, right? There's
yeah.
question marks. It's the time right now. Everybody's great. All right, we were
Everybody's
talking
great.
about that before the show started. That's kind of the feeling as we sit on Wednesday, May 29th. We had the best draft ever. We had the best free agents ever, and everything's totally fine.
Right. I mean that's what the draft brings, It's like I keep saying, it's hope. The NFL draft always brings hope. No matter how bad you've been for the last decade, this draft is going to turn it all around. And that's what's fun about the NFL draft and the NFL offseason, really.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, the time goes by very quickly. I'm only learning that as I get older, and especially being a parent, right? You have your newborn, you're holding your baby, and man, this is so exciting. And they always tell you, don't blink, it goes so quick. And here we
Sure
are.
does.
But it's the same thing with generalized time, man. Sports, I get it. The NBA finals are right around the corner. Same with the Stanley Cup. All eyes, though, are really shifting to the NFL, and specifically the Denver Broncos here in Colorado, right? The Nuggets have been eliminated. The Avs have been eliminated. So what's there to talk about right now in the Mile High City? It's the Denver Broncos. We're going to get you caught up on all the news. But before we do, let's say what's up to our very own DVA, host of OBV every Saturday night at 6 p.m. Mountain, where you can catch Dylan with Ron White. What's up, Broncos country? Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Please share on all platforms and subscribe if you have not done so already. Wolfie coming in here, starting out hot, saying, what's up, Broncos country? Feeling good about a Wednesday, May 29th, life of a Broncos fan. And not to be outdone, Papa Bear, David coming in. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott calling his shot. 12-5, Buckham, Denver Broncos for life. Bo knows. Knicks for 6, man. 12-5 with a rookie quarterback. 12-5 with questions with your star wide receiver who is sitting out of the optional portion of workouts right now. Oh, man, David, I love it. I love the optimism. He's always bringing the energy. Does he have good reason to, Tom? I mean, 12-5, that's a lofty one.
Man, 12-5 would be a godsend to a fan base that has seen mediocre play for 8 years, really. I mean, it would be incredible. So if that happens, man, I'd be through the roof as a Broncos fan.
That means things went better than expected.
Oh yeah.
I think, right? Both from the fan base and from Sean Payton's point of view. Sean Payton has his fingerprints all over this team the last 2 years. This is his second season he's coming into, the draft, free agency. The buck ultimately stops with Sean Payton. You said it very early on, Tom. I think before a lot of the rest of the national media and the locals came on, Bo Nix is attached to Sean Payton. Sean Payton is attached to Bo Nix. This is going to ultimately be a part of Sean Payton's legacy.
Yeah. At 12-5, that means Bo Nix probably had one of the best rookie seasons of a quarterback ever, most likely. A couple of those draft picks really panned out and looked great. And then all these young guys like took that next step that everybody wants, like Zach Allen became a much better player. You've got like the cornerback across from Pat Surtain takes the next step. Riley Moss, you got these young guys that like leaped forward. That's what that would mean. And that would be huge, right? Because they didn't go out and get a bunch of, high-priced free agents and everything. This is a young man's game, and that would mean that these young guys that the Broncos have been waiting on kind of jump forward, a huge jump forward. That's what that would mean at 12-5. It would have to be,
Well,
everything would have to have really gone perfectly. And a great
yeah,
coaching job.
I mean, you're talking better than CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. I mean, talk about that story last year, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. Why not, Bo? Why not the Denver Broncos? I mean, who saw the Houston Texans and the success with D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud? I didn't. Not at all. I mean, there are still some here in Denver with good reason, and maybe you're one of them, Tom, saying, man, maybe you should have given another harder look at D'Amico Ryans. Now, bullish on Sean Payton. I'm going to ride with him. He does some things I don't like, and I'm not afraid to share those opinions, Vance Joseph. But when you look at the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, and you try to, 12-5, that's lofty. I think there's going to be some growing pains. I think you're going to find success with Bo Nix, but it might not be the immediate success that we all want to think. Playoffs, rookie season, right? I mean, Can we get above 500? That too much to ask, Tom? Can we beat the Raiders in that streak? Can we squash what the Chargers and Justin Herbert and Harbaugh are planning out there in Los Angeles? Can we get the first win in SoFi Stadium for the Denver Broncos? I mean, there's a lot of firsts to still check if you're Sean Payton.
Yeah. And it would also mean that something happened to the Kansas City Chiefs too, right? Like they had a major downfall, injury or something that happened. Because you're not gonna go 12-5 if the Chiefs are going 12-5. I mean, it just isn't gonna happen, right? I mean, I don't see it, but a lot of stuff would have to happen. It would have to be almost a miracle in my mind for that to happen, just based on what the roster makeup is, based on the young players that they're expecting to do a lot of playing.
The schedule.
What's that?
The schedule as well. I mean,
that's schedule, it would have to fall right. And they'd have to get out to a really kind of lucky start too, with young players. They'd have to have the ball bounce their way a few times for the first few games before they hit their stride. And then you could see that happening. So, man, I mean, I'm not going to go there, but 12, I would take it in a heartbeat. 12-5 would be much, much needed record that Broncos fans have been waiting for.
That tells me that David's excited about his first-round rookie quarterback, as you should be. Look, I don't think Thomas and I are telling any tales out of school here when we say that Bo Nix wasn't our first pick. All right. That being said, I think we're both excited to give this young man a chance here to see him grow, to see what he looks like in orange and blue. New uniforms, by the way. I mean, this should be an exciting time. You know who's excited? Our guy Michael Ronquillo, always showing his excitement on MHI. Good evening, Luke and Thomas on Mile High Insiders, and go Broncos. Tom, you brought up Pat Mahomes for a quick second. I don't know if you saw this, but I don't get it, man. Did you see Pat Mahomes taking flack for the dad bod coming into OTAs? Yeah. Did you see that whole thing? I'm like, do you guys not realize? Did you not see the quarterback series on Netflix? Do we not know how hard this man works? I mean, I think he's probably in better shape than most of us. I thought that whole thing was silly, man. I'm like, you're talking about a world champion, the best quarterback in the league. I'm sure he takes that shirt off. He's going to have eyes looking at him for the positive reasons.
Yeah, and you don't have to have a jacked body to play quarterback in the NFL, especially in today's NFL where they're well protected. I mean, you just don't. I mean, you got to be in shape, and I'm sure he's in great shape. But you don't have to have six-pack abs and that kind of stuff to play quarterback.
He's playing on a broken ankle when it's like negative 10 degrees. All right. I think he's in shape. I think he can move around, and, far be it from me to give the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes a compliment, but I did see Travis Kelce getting booed the other night at the Mavericks Wolves game. That made me happy because, I can't stand that guy, man.
He rubs me the wrong way, man. He just does. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do that he's a Kansas City Chief.
Yeah.
But besides that, he still rubs me the wrong way.
Oh, man, I can't stand him. What's it going to look like this year for the Denver Broncos and Travis Kelce? He's been an absolute Bronco killer. When you look at, his coming out party was really against the Denver Broncos to start his career. And as we're talking about the Denver Broncos here on Wednesday nights, MHI, he is Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. Scott Kennedy rocking with us as well. Some news today, some renaming of the Denver Broncos headquarters, if you will, Tom. Get ready for it. This is a mouthful. Centura Health has changed to Common Spirit Health. So the name on Broncos headquarters is officially Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. And I like when Mike Kliss said that rolls right off the tongue when you say
Yeah.
that 5 times fast. Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. Now, fun fact, I used to work for Centura Health. It's a healthcare organization here in Colorado. And if anybody's ever worked in healthcare at any point in time, you know that organizations change names quite a bit, specifically in healthcare. So I think we were all kind of wondering how this was going to focus and pan out when you've got so many buildings, so many different organizations to tear off that name and put on a new one. It feels good that the Denver Broncos finally have money with the ownership of the Walton Penner ownership group. I don't really care about the name, Tom, but it feels good to have a sponsor, if you will. Do you remember it wasn't too long ago that the Broncos couldn't even find a sponsor for their stadium?
Yeah. No, it's nice. I don't really care about the name either. I really dislike the name for the stadium though. Whatever it is at Mile High.
In Power Field.
Yeah, I mean
Mhm.
it's been something different for the last, I don't know how many years. It seems like it's changed like 4 times, but just think of a name and
I've
keep
got
with
it. I've got it. I've got it figured out. I've had it figured out for years, as has the rest of Broncos country. Pat Bowlen Field at Mile High Stadium.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying too, but I just leave them at Mile High off. Just go with Pat Bowen Field or Stadium. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's nobody here that doesn't love Mile High Stadium, the name and the what you think of when you think of Mile High Stadium. But at some point, it's no longer Mile High Stadium. They tore that stadium down. It's a completely just leave it be. Name it Pat Bowen Stadium or Pat Bowen Field, and then just leave it. Just call it.
Just leave it. You got to call it. And you know what I want to call? I want to call Cortland Sutton and say, can you come back? Can we do some organized OTAs with your rookie quarterback? We talked about this a little bit last week, Tom. And it's funny. We asked the question, gee, what does Cortland want? He wants a new contract. He wants something. Well, came out this week what he wants, right? You can read about that over at milehighhuddle.com right now. Cortland Sutton, who is in Florida, skipping voluntary OTAs, at least this portion of it, because he wants a reportedly $2 to $3 million in basically a raise, right? To come back to work. Tom, what do you make of the request from the Broncos' leading receiver?
I mean, it's not that much money. So I don't know what else, what other things, if he just wants that for one more year, just give him the money and get him back into the fold and get going. I mean, that's not that much. I mean, you're paying, that's basically, paying a kind of over the hill vet to come in for a year, right? You might as well just, if that's what it takes, fine, give him the money. It doesn't seem like a lot. And, get him back into training camp. Let him start catching some balls.
What's the deal with this? I'm confused by the timing of this, Tom, because you're right. 2 to 3 million when you're the Broncos owners, meh, pennies, right? We're redoing the headquarters as we speak right now, so the fan experience can be better at training camp, right? The Walton Penner ownership group, I think they definitely care about this team because they're spending a lot of money on it, Tom, whether it be stadium upgrades from last season, practice fields, rolling out regular season game, new turf. I mean, this ownership group is sparing no expense. However, it's coming out on what, the last week of May that Cortland Sutton wants 2 to 3 mil, and they're that far apart. I mean, that far apart between $2 and $3 million, right when we should be getting ready to come into the building. I don't understand it. The timing of it makes no sense. It makes me feel like both sides have their heels dug in over something that isn't a lot of money. Can we meet in $1 million? He wants 3. Can we give him 1.5 and call it good? Can we put some incentives in there? I mean, what can we do to get these guys together? Because it seems fairly certain, or nothing certain in the NFL, but it seems like Cortland Sutton is going to be on this team. It seems like the Denver Broncos want him, yet he's not at the facility. He's not working out with his rookie quarterback. And can you blame him? He's been sold a bill of goods for how many years now? His entire career in Denver. Hey, Cortland, we got you a quarterback in the draft. He's going to be great. Hey, Cortland, we got one in free agency. Hey, Cortland, we traded for one. It's going to be great. I mean, at a certain point, you can kind of understand why Sutton's saying, look, I'll play in Denver. I'm fine with it, but give me a little bit of a raise. I've been dealing with some BS.
Yeah, but on the flip side, he's been part of that BS the whole time too. He hasn't done anything that has gotten him over the hump. So it goes both ways. It's one of those things where, Yeah, he's probably tired of losing, but at the same time, he's been a part of the losing. He's been a part of that losing culture. So, it's hard to say. But for $2 or $3 million, you would think that would be an easy deal. Just roll it into a bonus and say, here you go, come back to the facility, and we're going to play some football.
Man, 2 to 3 million. It doesn't sound like a lot, right? When you're talking about NFL money, which isn't our money, we go to the grocery store, everything's minimum $150 now, right? 6 things, $150. They're living in a different set of rules, but the same world, if you will, right? So I suppose maybe they want to pinch their pennies a little bit. Why not try to get the most out of your career? Again, Cortland's on the tail end. He's no spring chicken. The injuries have definitely mounted up. He had some boneheaded plays last year, Tom. You said it best. He's been a part of the problem, not always the solution, but not always the reason that they're winning either. And I think Cortland had arguably his best season last year since becoming a Denver Bronco. We remember his rookie campaign. He came out, he did very well. A lot of underwhelming feelings for Cortland Sutton in some of those games for me still. And 2 to 3 million, are you that far apart? Reports are they are. Jeremy Fowler, last week saying the team and the player, they're far apart. Scott had an interesting idea. Maybe you guarantee Cortland Sutton's 2024 salary, and that makes him happy. He's got a $13 million base, and then he get his guarantee. So would that make everybody happy? I mean, how far apart are we?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like he wants that much. So it's like you've got to be able to work something out. And again, it's voluntary workouts. If this rolls into training camp and there's still not something done and he's still in Florida, then I'm going to start to worry a little bit about whether or not he's going to be on this team or not. And if he doesn't want to play for the team, then why would Sean Payton want him on the team? He's trying to change the culture. And if he doesn't want to be here, okay, well, I'm sorry, you're gone.
Well, and why wouldn't you force your hand or at least try something, I don't know, before the draft? Maybe he has. Maybe this total speculation. I would think if Cortland Sutton wanted to be traded, we would know about it. And Monica's coming in. Thank you for joining on Facebook, Monica, saying, look, I think that Cortland Sutton wants a chance somewhere else. Does he? Monica, I mean, he scrubbed his account right over on X, got rid of some of the Broncos stuff. Last I checked, hadn't been over there in a while. But anytime a player does that, right, the whole world panics, and it's a little, I don't know. They think it's leverage, but it's kind of a tell that the player's unhappy. They know it's a tell, and it's drama. I do appreciate that Cortland hasn't been overly dramatic about it. Again, he's a wide receiver. So he's certainly within his right to be dramatic about his contract, but he's not doing it. Again, this is organized. I'm frustrated that he's not there, but I understand. I'm frustrated because I'm being selfish. I want to see Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton. That's me being selfish. That's not me caring about what if you're Cortland Sutton and you're at these voluntary workouts and you get hurt. It happens. Ask Drew Sanders and that Achilles. Just had surgery on it. I mean, you could kind of see a point if you're Cortland Sutton, and if I'm going to work out with this rookie quarterback, I want to get raised, plain and simple. I asked some good friends who've been out there looking at these guys, how the team's looking. I'm being told Bo Nix looks very sharp. He's a smart young man. He's doing what he should be doing right now. Not too high, not too low. He's doing what he should be doing. I asked about the wide receivers. Tom, you thought about it last week. You said Marvin Mims needs to take a big step. Being told Marvin Mims looks fantastic right now. Tim Patrick, that's a question mark, right? I mean, is Tim Patrick going to make this team? I'm not saying he's doing poorly. I'm not saying he's doing amazing. I'm not there. But from what I'm hearing, it could be a challenge for Tim Patrick. What's your take on one of Broncos country's favorite players?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, great story. I wrote him off a long time ago, and he proved me wrong. So I don't want to write him off again. But 2 major injuries, pushing 30, if he is maybe over 30 at this point now, it's a long shot to make the team, especially since the team is trying to kind of rebuild and get younger. Now, I know he took a pay cut and all of that, but if you're looking at, someone that could be a good player for you this year, but he's not really in the future plan, so to speak, and you got a younger guy who's kind of pushing him, but maybe not quite there yet, you're going to choose that younger guy because you're trying to get younger. You're trying to build for the future. So he's got to, he's not a shoe-in to make the team. That's just all there is to it. But I don't want to write him off because I did that once already and he proved me way wrong. So I'm not going to write him off yet.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think he's done. I hate to say it, and I've been there both days that he's been injured. By the way, in training camp, a year to the day. I mean, I think it was last year. Absolutely disgusting. It makes you sick. I'll be completely honest. Some fans took it pretty hard, Tom. I mean, you had fans in tears out there. You had teammates that were visibly upset. It kind of ruins the day, and then you, as a head coach, Sean Payton, have to figure out how to get your players back, how to get them, how do you salvage the day? How do you salvage the practice? Well, right now, the question is, how do you salvage this roster? There are a lot of holes. I asked, how's little Jordan Humphrey doing? You know, I like little Jordan Humphrey a lot. And the thing, no matter who I ask, they say the same thing. He's big, and he is. He's very big. There's nothing little about Jordan Humphrey, but he's a serviceable wide receiver. You can't depend on him to be your big-time playmaker. However, was a much better playmaker than Jerry Jeudy last year. You know, a lot more first downs, a lot more impact plays. But that can't be the measure of success heading into 2024, right? Some of these guys aren't even on the team. Jerry Jeudy's in Cleveland. Good luck in the AFC North, bud. It's just, I hate to make excuses, but it makes me wonder how focused this team truly is when you have some of the old guard that's still here. You know, you wave goodbye to Justin Simmons, who's still on the free agent market because of what's happened with the safety position. Then you keep a guy like Tim Patrick because he reworked his deal just to see. I mean, are we just trying out because we respect Tim Patrick? Are we doing him a favor? What's the deal? Because the Broncos aren't in a position to be doing any favors for anybody. They can't even help themselves right now. And it sounds like I'm being very brutal against Tim Patrick. And I love the guy, I love the player, but back-to-back season ending injuries when you already had a bad rap coming out of college for injuries. I mean, it's tough. So you look at Cortland Sutton, he's best friends, right, with Tim Patrick. And you're like, man, I got to get mine. My body's not getting any younger. It does make sense.
Well, I mean, for the price that they renegotiated, it really is let's hope that he is able to give us a good year, right? I mean, it's not that expensive anymore. Back when he was getting paid a lot more, obviously he had that new deal and kept getting injured. That was a different story. But he resigned for a very small amount, really, for a wide receiver, and they're just hoping to get something out of him. And on top of it, from what I understand, he's a good leader, right? So, and he's gone from nowhere to something. He didn't get, he had to earn everything he got. So that plays a lot in the locker room. I think that you see somebody like that who wasn't supposed to make the team and then did and was a pretty solid player for a little while. I think that helps. You can't have just a bunch of young players without any leadership whatsoever. So it is nice to have him in the fold for those reasons. Now, if it pans out and he plays really well, then, that little bit of money that they gave him was worth it. But if he doesn't and he, gets beat out by somebody else because he just, doesn't have it anymore after the injuries, he lost a little bit of money. Either way, it's not a big deal.
That's essentially the question. Is it worth the $2 to $3 million for Cortland Sutton to be working out with Bo Nix today? Right. That's the question. That's it. And right now the Broncos are saying, no, not yet. You want to know when we're going to have some answers? Mandatory minicamp. I'm looking at something right now saying that the Broncos mandatory minicamp will start June 11th and run through the 13th. That's coming up, man. Couple weeks away. Will Cortland Sutton be there? Tom, what do you say?
Yeah, I think he's going to show up. I think he's going to be there only because they need to have their best players there. And right now, Sutton is their best receiver. Now, Mims may be a better receiver down the road, and you got that Reynolds from Detroit might end up being pretty good. But right now, when you look at the team, Sutton's their number one guy, and they need him there. So they'll work something out. They'll figure something out. They'll get him in there for mandatory camp and start playing because it doesn't seem like he's that disgruntled, right? It doesn't seem like it's unfixable. It doesn't, from outside looking in. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's just like done, but it doesn't seem unfixable.
You're right. Cortland's been a mature player, right? His entire time with the Broncos. So you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt until there's a problem. You really can't report that there's one or think that there's one. This is just business. Yeah, I think sometimes we as human beings tend to make things more personal, and there's nothing more personal than protecting your livelihood, especially when you have a family that relies on you. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting when mandatory minicamp comes around to see what Cortland Sutton will do. Will he be there, or will he still be in Florida? Or what's the thing the kids do nowadays? A hold in. Remember when they used to just hold out, Tom? Well, now they hold in, and players show up to the facility and they're like, "I'm here, but I pass on that drill. Maybe I'll just work out today in sweats and a hoodie." I mean, I don't know.
Well,
These are crazy times. It's a different league.
as long as he's not out punting the ball because he's mad, like Brandon Marshall did to force his way out back in the day. I remember that when he got all ticked off and started punting the ball.
It worked, Tom. He got out of here. If Cortland wants out of Denver, I don't know. Maybe start punting some balls. I was at the training camp. It was my first training camp. I was credentialed, and I was there when Emmanuel Sanders and Cortland Sutton started fighting. And by fighting, I mean throwing water bottles at each other. That's how the wide receivers fight over at training camp. It was something like Cortland's rookie year, and he was really upset that he didn't finish his route. Quarterback didn't go to him. Couldn't even tell you who the quarterback was back then. Maybe it was Joe Flacco. Now that I think about it, quarterback didn't even go to him. And Emmanuel's like, "You finish your route. This is the NFL. This isn't, SMU." And Cortland, Emmanuel, water bottles. It's, hey, wide receivers fighting in training camp. That's kind of how it goes. However, speaking of how it goes, I'm curious how it's going to go in training camp, because there's an article up right now at milehighhuddle.com, Tom, and ESPN's Bill Barnwell is forecasting the Denver Broncos as, quote, most likely to be working the phones in August, suggesting that a late summer fire sale for the Denver Broncos is coming. What do you think when I say that the Denver Broncos are going to start selling some players per Bill Barnwell? Because my first thought is, which players do they want to sell, Tom?
All right. That's my thought too. Like he mentioned Greg Dulcich and Damari Mathis. Who are buying those guys? I mean, really, like Damari Mathis looked great, coming on his rookie season, and then just fell flat on his face last year. Who's going to give anything for him? Dulcich, world of talent, but can't stay on the field. I mean, I get it. I get the, you want to build up some sort of buzz going on to try and get some people to read your article. But like you said, who are they selling? Right. I mean, the two people he named, it's like, who's buying? I mean, maybe they'll take a shot at him for some late round guys, but it's not going to be one of those things where like, oh, well, they got a big haul for this person.
No, I think Bill's doing what he's doing, right? He's a professional that's been in this game for a long time, and regardless of what you think of him, he's very popular. And he's saying, quote, the Broncos are on a roller coaster. After trading away years of draft capital to acquire quarterback Russell Wilson and coach Sean Payton, and going on an offseason spending spree last year, the team's decision to move on from Wilson and start over with rookie Bo Nix leaves them in a difficult bind. Like the empty nesters who sold their house and downsized, the Broncos have too much stuff, he wrote. What is Bill talking about? Too much stuff. You and I come on this show every Wednesday night and we have panic attacks, Tom, about the offensive line, the defensive line, your linebacking core, your secondary, quarterback, wide receiver, and Bill is suggesting that the Broncos are in a position to have a fire sale? I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it seems weird, and you're right. It's like too much stuff. Yeah, but you can have too much junk, right? Like, but that's still junk, right?
That's why it's a fire sale.
It's not like you have too many Rolexes and you got to get rid of a few. It's like you've got a bunch of Casios and no one wants them. So I don't get it. I think they need to let it play out. And if there is someone like Dulcich who isn't injured, is playing well, but he's not in the plans, they may try and shop him around. But I mean, for me, it's like they need to figure out this roster going forward. They've got a lot of young players, and they need to figure out who's going to be there and who isn't. And then on top of it, you have to make it through an entire season when injuries happen. So getting rid of everybody at the end of August doesn't make any sense unless they're saying, you know what, we're going with a bunch of nobodies that no one knows about. And we're getting rid of any big name that you could think of, McGlinchey, Powers, Allen, which I don't think any of those guys really can get rid of, because you're going to get more in debt with your cap hits and everything else, all while trying to get rid of the cap hit from Russell Wilson. And then on top of it, I think you have your full stable of picks next year. So it's not like they were out of picks like they were last year. So it's kind of it's one of those things that's a head scratcher to me. But you might see someone get moved. It's always a lot more excitement talking about it than what really happens.
Well, speaking of movement, Dalton Risner is back in the NFL. Welcome back, big fella. Re-signed with the Minnesota Vikings, where he spent a lot of time playing in Minnesota last year. Tom, why did it take Dalton Risner so long to get a job from his old employer?
I don't think he played that great. I mean, he's not, he's an average starter, and they were probably hoping to get someone that could step into his role. I still got that cough.
Bless.
And nobody really, really grabbed hold of it so far. So they said, we'll give him another shot at it. And it's just like Justin Simmons still sitting out there. Everybody thought, oh, he'll be picked up right away. Well, he's still sitting out there waiting.
Why not bring him back, Tom? I mean, I threw that out there. I know I'm asking a lot. I know it's ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. You can come at me at Luke Patterson LP. Maybe it's just a fan in me, but I see a need. Well, I mean, Caden Stearns, that's what we're going to do. Caden Stearns, we're talking about injuries and everything. You're talking about a guy who really never got on the wagon when it came to saddling up and being ready to play in the NFL. And all of a sudden, we're just going to trust Caden Stearns back there with the new guy from the Miami Dolphins. I don't know, man. You're right. The ship probably sailed, but why is it, Tom, when we're talking about maybe average players, you don't think Dalton Risner is necessarily a cream of the crop player? And I think the rest of the NFL would agree with you based on how free agency worked out. Tom, why is it that I forget about Josh Reynolds on this team? Not a big,
I don't know,
not a big name pickup. I always wonder about this.
It wasn't like,
that's it.
Ooh, whoa, we got a great wide receiver here. He's a solid receiver, but he didn't wow anybody. So people kind of forget that he's on the team. But I think he's going to be a good complementary receiver to whoever that number one is. And I hope it's Marvin Mims. I hope he takes that next step, because that's what this team really needs. But I think he's going to be a good complementary receiver. But I don't think he's going to be, wowing anybody all the time. So that's probably why.
I think he could surprise you. I think, he's not going to wow you. You're right. I mean, I want to be pleasantly surprised, right? Can you give me 6 touchdowns this year, Josh Reynolds? I'd be thrilled. Sean Payton picking wide receivers is interesting to me because he's got a very checkered past with him. He's got some that have just balled out of control. He's got others that have fallen flat on their face. Maybe that's just the case with the position, but you're trying to get to know Sean Payton a little bit and what he likes, right? And everybody goes immediately to Drew Brees. One thing I don't think we are talking about enough, and we being the show and people in general, is Randy's point right here. The reports are Javonte Williams is struggling, and I've checked in with some folks. Everybody's been on social media. I've heard exactly what everybody else has heard. Javonte, I don't know if he's waiting to turn it on for mandatory mini camp. I don't know if he's waiting until training camp or what the deal is, but Pookie's not looking like himself. It looks like there might be some rust on the gears.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him gone yet, but if he comes out playing like he played last year, whenever, after having more time to recover, you might see him gone, but who's going to be there to replace him, right? And I know that everybody's excited about the 6th round big running back out of Notre Dame, but and everybody keeps pointing, Terrell Davis, 6th round pick, and Isaiah Pacheco, he is all of a sudden. Well, you forget about all these people that just didn't make it. These 4th, 5th, 6th round running backs they're gone. It's not easy to make the team. So I want to see what he does first before I jump on the bandwagon when I see him in the NFL. And if he's the real deal in camp, then you may see Javonte Williams get moved. But right now, he's the number one guy. I mean, that's it. That's all there is to it. I mean, who else is going to carry the load? P. Ryan, I liked him as a change of pace, kind of third down back, did really well, but I don't know if he can carry the load. So
No.
who's carrying the load? And that's
Jaleel
where I have to go
McLaughlin.
to. What's that?
Jaleel McLaughlin. I
No,
think
he can't carry the load. I mean, he can't.
No, he can't carry the load. But when you say carry the load, you know what I hear? Who's going to start? And I could realistically see a scenario where you have Jaleel McLaughlin as your starting running back. Do I think that's going to work? No, not in this AFC West. He's a change of pace back, right? He's an athlete. He's a receiver. He's a playmaker. You get him in open space. You don't run him between the tackles. You're going to have a damn hard enough time doing that on your own with any running back who's 6 foot, maybe 200 plus pounds. But Tom, what are talking about running backs too? I mean, maybe we're just going a little bit too quick, too soon. I'm asking my friends, what's going on with the center position out there right now? And I'm being told it's Luke Wattenberg's gig. Luke Wattenberg is, I think, your center for the Denver Broncos in 2024. And I got to be honest, I'm pretty nervous. I love the name. Make me proud, baby. Yeah. But I'm nervous.
Yeah, and it was funny because I didn't know if he was going to make the team at all last year. I thought that Kyle Fuller was going to make the team because, he came in to be the center, and then Cushenberry won that job. I thought, okay, well, Fuller would probably be the guard, backup swing guard and everything. But Wattenberg beat him out, which was surprising to me because I didn't think he played overall that well.
No.
So I'm a little bit worried about Wattenberg as the starting center. Now he could be a good enough starting center, but it does worry me.
He has one game started in his NFL career as a rookie in 2022. That's asking a lot. I can tell you I went back and looked at my training camp notes, and pass protection was a big issue. One-on-ones, moving your feet. That's the issue for every offensive lineman. Run blocking should be a strength, not a weakness. Traditionally, when you're looking at grading O linemen, D linemen, which is one of my favorite things, but it's just like, man, we're doing this again with the center position. I mean, Lloyd Cushenberry, I don't know. He was serviceable, but didn't quite work out. Was never the anchor of the offensive line. I think you really have your guards penciled in, and that's kind of it. Mike McGlinchey, as you mentioned, left a lot to be desired with those false starts, with those holding penalties. What's going on with Garrett Bowles? How long is he going to be a Denver Bronco? What's the future? Right? I'm hearing good things about Cody Mott out of Wyoming. But again, long path before you enter a starting position. I don't know what the plan is with Luke Wattenberg. We're just going to give it to him. Alex Forsyth, right? Bo Nix's former teammate. Is there going to be a competition there? Either way, I don't like the optics of how this offensive line is looking. Tom, you're the Denver Broncos. What do you do with Garrett Bowles? Do you extend him and commit to him, or do you try to ride it out?
You don't. You're trying to get younger. You're trying to rebuild. You do not extend him. You look at the next draft and try and get your left tackle of the future. You don't hang around with Garrett Bowles any longer. He just, he's never been an amazing player that you need to keep around into the, twilight of his years. I say if you can trade him, good, get something for him. If not, you let him walk when free agency and you look for his replacement. I was actually hoping they were looking for his replacement in this draft, but that didn't really happen. But I wouldn't stick around with him. And on top of it, you can tell Sean Payton is getting rid of the old guard. Justin Simmons is gone. You're going to see Cortland Sutton gone pretty soon. Garrett Bowles is going to be gone pretty soon. It is going to be out with the old, in with Sean Payton's guys. And I think, I think you let him play this year and see where you're at. But I would not extend him.
Garrett Bowles is on the books for, it looks like, $16 million for 2024, I believe. That's a $4 million dead cap if something were to happen. $20 million cap hit. He will be an unrestricted free agent at the ripe age of 33 in 2025. Remember, Tom, he was drafted as one of those older players at age 28 when he came into the league in 2020. He's had a long career, right? Garrett Bowles as a Denver Bronco. Broncos country, they've been in the lows with Garrett Bowles. They've been in some of the highs with Garrett Bowles, and it's hard for a fan base to say goodbye. I don't know if Garrett Bowles is a fan favorite, but he's familiar.
Right.
In a team that is constantly rotating quarterbacks, head coaches, it's nice to have an offensive lineman that should be your foundation. I don't know that Garrett's ever been that foundation for the Broncos. He's definitely played his way into this contract he's currently playing under. He salvaged his NFL career when I wrote him off. I couldn't say anything good about 72, but each year that tooth gets a little longer and the play gets a little lesser.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Miners is the guy that you want to build around. Not that guard is a highly important position, but he's young. He's getting a heck of a lot better. He looks like he's going to be kind of a star on the offensive line. And you try and find your left tackle for the future to build along with Garrett Bowles. And then at some point, you try and do something with that overpriced right tackle that you paid for that hasn't panned out. My guess is in 3 years, it's going to be a completely different offensive line besides Quinn Miners. It's going to be a whole set of new starters.
Yeah, maybe. Can you move Quinn Miners to center?
You could.
Remember when?
Why?
Why? Because it's not Luke Wattenberg. Because I think it's easier for a guard to assimilate than a center. That being said, Quinn Miners doesn't have any experience as a center either, right? I mean,
not in the NFL. I think he played a little.
In Wisconsin Whitewater.
Yeah.
All right,
Not in the NFL.
Little different, and it's a little different than blocking against trash cans, right? And those famous workout videos of Quinn Miners. We love Quinn Miners. You're exactly right, but your guards are pretty much figured out. Ben Powers, I thought he left a ton to be desired last year. I was not stoked with Ben Powers' play. I thought he would come in and absolutely dominate. That wasn't the case. He struggled as well. The entire Broncos offensive line struggled. I'm curious. They don't have a lot of depth on that offensive line, Tom, so it doesn't seem like there's going to be a ton of competition. I think you've got Luke Wattenberg. They're expecting him to be the center. You've got Quinn Miners, Garrett Bowles. This is the last year, we both think, for Garrett in Denver. And then on the right side, you've got Quinn Miners and Mike McGlinchey. Ben Powers on the left side next to Garrett Bowles. I mean, Mike McGlinchey, what do you do there? Can you count on Mike McGlinchey?
Not really, but that's your guy. I mean, you don't have anybody else, right? I mean, you're right. I think everybody's penciled in except Wattenberg probably has some competition at center, but otherwise, I think you've got your other four set, and I think the team believes that as well. They're going to roll with McGlinchey, even though he had his struggles, and they're going to hope for the best.
Tom, what about your guy Alex Palczewski? Can he? I'm serious. Can he be a swing tackle that the Broncos can count on as either left or right?
I'll have to take that. I'll have to say that he could play backup right tackle for sure. Whether he can jump over to left, because he hasn't played left tackle since he was in high school. So it might be a bit of a learning curve. I like the guy. I think he plays really good. As a left tackle, maybe not, but I think he's going to push for a backup role. Whether he sticks or not is, like you said, you need that swing guy. You need someone that can go left and right. We'll see if he can actually make that leap. And it would be nice to see in camp if they're putting him on the left side, because then you'll know if he's in their plans to be that swing tackle.
Tom, how could I forget about Calvin Throckmorton, backup offensive lineman from the Saints, handpicked by Sean Payton? Just another one of those New Orleans Saints that Sean Payton's saying, come on over. Not a big signing, right? 27-year-old veteran player coming in. He was an undrafted free agent that Sean Payton discovered in 2020, which is why he is here competing for a Broncos position. What's the point? There's not a lot of depth. That's why I bring this up. I'm trying to go through the Broncos' current depth chart, if there even is such a thing. And it's really just going through a roster, trying to project, right? We think we know what the offensive line is going to look like. Michael Burton, you've got your work cut out for you at fullback, bud, because this offensive line is going to need a lot of help. Sean Payton has to figure out the running game. I know. Rookie quarterback. Let's let Bo cook or whatever. Bo 6 for Knicks, all this sort of stuff, whatever. I get it. It's exciting. A rookie quarterback has to have a run game, period. You don't know what your tight end situation is with Greg Dulcich. And I know everybody loves Lucas Kroll. Again, love the first name. But I don't know that you can count on Lucas Kroll to come in here and be a playmaker. I know he's 10 feet tall and should be able to see over everybody, but there's a little more to that than what the Broncos have ever had at the tight end position for the last 10 years. It just feels like we get these tight ends that are overachievers in college, right, or underachievers, and then they come here and they're busted in the injury room. Without a run game, without a tight end to be your security blanket, I think Bo Nix could suffer.
Yeah, they definitely have to figure out the running game. Their running game was not very good. There was times where it had some good, good games, but overall left a lot to be desired. And this team's got to figure it out. They can't put all the pressure on Bo Nix right away, especially early on. If he's going to start from week 1, they cannot just say, okay, we're just going to have you throw the ball a whole bunch. Now, I know the short passing game and the way they, he used that, it's kind of like an extension of the running game because it's quick, short passing. But at the same time, you still need to have a running game that can threaten to, make some yards. And I don't think anybody was afraid of the Broncos running game last season. They just weren't. It wasn't really effective.
No, it wasn't effective. And speaking of not effective, it makes me kind of wonder about our quarterback room. Right? Like, what's the deal with Zach Wilson, with Jarrett Stidham, with Bo Nix? It's odd, right? And you hear Sean Payton talking about him. He called them orphan dogs. And I was just like, what? Orphan dogs? I guess for 2 of the 3, but not the one. The one should have been the prime pedigree show dog that you just had to have from Oregon. I mean, you drove to get that dog multiple times, right? You're still changing those puppy pads in the middle of the night. That dog, it should be a thoroughbred.
That's right.
The other 2, what do you do with Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham if you're Sean Payton? I think that it's fairly obvious this is a huge opportunity for Zach Wilson to reclaim any resemblance of an NFL career. Jarrett Stidham, kind of a placeholder right now. What are the roles for Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham? Because we know what this should be for Bo Nix. That role should be competing for a starting position, earning a starting position, being QB1 on day 1.
Yeah, to me, it's Bo Nix's job to lose. They're going to give him every chance to win it because that's what they want, and that's what the Broncos need. They need him to be the guy. You got Stidham as the backup, kind of the, supposedly the smart guy who can help your rookie, and then Zach Wilson. I mean, I don't even understand why he's there, right? Like, you're not going to rekindle his career. Had you not drafted a first-round quarterback, sure, give him a shot. But now, why would you even give him the opportunity? You shouldn't. You should be giving the opportunities to Bo Nix. He's your future. Zach Wilson's just kind of there as as a third string guy that I don't know. Maybe they're going to get rid of him down the road. Before the season starts. Like, why? I don't understand why he was on the team to begin with. But I don't understand it more now that they went first round QB. I just don't understand it.
It's an odd room, right? I think Jarrett Stidham is okay, but Zach Wilson, I don't know. Maybe if you want to scout team quarterback, why not? Athletic, big arm. I mean, I don't think Zach Wilson is here to sell tickets. I don't think he's here to sell those Russell Wilson reclamation jerseys, right? I don't think any of that's happening, but I don't know, man. It's so odd when you look at it, and anything what if injuries happen? God forbid. What if Jarrett Stidham went down? Then you have a Zach Wilson, and he too was handpicked by Sean Payton. Sean had to trade for him, had to go get him. Sean just had to have him before the NFL draft. I don't know if that was a smokescreen. I don't know if that was a move to try to hope Bo Nix falls to you. A lot of folks projected Bo Nix into day 2. It's hard to say, right? And you know what else is hard to say? I don't know if you saw this story, Tom. It's hard to say what the future of the NFL offseason is going to look like because the NFLPA, Tom, is proposing eliminating OTAs altogether in favor of a longer ramp up to training camp. What would you say if you heard that the NFL got rid of OTAs and training camp essentially started in June?
I love it. Make it mandatory, and then you're not having these. I mean, it's nice for us to talk about it, but you're not having these squabbles. You're either there or you're not. And I like it. I like it better than having these couple day camps and then they go away for a while, have a couple day camps. Just start practicing and just get into it. I think I like it. I like it. You're going to cut down, obviously, with that, they're probably going to cut down the preseason games to 2. They're going to extend to 18 game season, and it's just going to be one long slog from June until February.
Well, that's what it is right now, right? Because you get 2 months of off-season workouts, and then there's a 5 or 6 week vacation. And then you have training camp. I mean, it's an odd schedule. What's odd to me about this story, I like it. I think the players hate it. I think they will hate it. Why is the NFLPA suggesting that? That seems kind of odd to me. You'd think that would be a request coming from the owners, not representation of the NFLPA.
Yeah. Well, if you're not at mini camps because it's voluntary and you get hurt, right? Then that's when the NFLPA kind of gets involved. But if it's mandatory and you're at practice from start to finish, you're supposed to be there and you get hurt while you're practicing, then you're covered, right? But if you decide not to come to mini camp like Cortland Sutton and he blows his Achilles off in Miami, then you're out that money because you weren't with the facility. So I think that might have something to do with it. But otherwise, I'm not really sure, other than maybe it will help them get into a better rhythm of practice and get their body ready and everything. I mean, obviously, most of these guys are always working out and always having their body ready. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's I would imagine injury possibly is why they're on board.
I would expect when players start speaking into the microphone at mandatory minicamp, you're going to hear some very unhappy campers. I'm curious who the new union rep is for the Denver Broncos. Used to be Brandon McManus. Then it was Justin Simmons. Who's going to be the union rep for the Denver Broncos now? I mean, they're going to be expected to have some answers for this. I don't think guys are going to be happy. Shiloh coming in with a $2 super. Thanks for joining the show, Shiloh. He's riding this till the season. Lucas Kroll is our answer. You may be onto something, Shiloh, because that tight end room, it's rough, right? We're bagging on Greg Dulcich for always being hurt, not quite living up to expectations, but it's an odd tight end room. You got Adam Troutman, Sean Payton's guy. Lucas Kroll, Sean Payton's guy, right? Discovered Lucas Kroll, undrafted, back in New Orleans. And then Nate Adkins still hanging around there in the tight end room. What is it with the Broncos tight end position? Because they say they figured the right tackle position out. I'm not so sure. But tight end has been a huge question mark, really, since Julius Thomas stopped playing with Peyton Manning.
Yeah, well, it's mostly been injuries. They just cannot get somebody to, to fill that role. It is weird. But they haven't, I mean, they've kind of invested some draft picks into it. Noah Fant, who just didn't pan out, he wasn't as dynamic as they were hoping him to be. So they've kind of had a rough go with the draft choices that they've made, the trying to draft injury prone players like Jake Butt, hoping he rekindles. It's just, it just seems like that position where they're just like, they just miss every single time in the draft. They just cannot hit. And it just keeps, you just keep seeing it every year. You've got nobody at tight end that really can stretch the field and really threaten the defense at all.
Adam Troutman looks amazing on the practice field. You've seen him, right?
Yeah.
I've seen him the past couple seasons now. Like, he looks like an MVP out there at training camp. Looks a little different on Sundays in the regular season. Now, I don't know how that's affected with Russell Wilson, with the play calling, lots of variables. What's the point? The point is it's an underwhelming position, a room that has full of question marks. I mean, Lucas Kroll should be the silver lining. I think he was a silver lining at the end of last year in some of those meaningless games. The train was off the rails as soon as Russell Wilson was benched. It was drama galore from the players, from the national media, from everybody. And I'll say this, Lucas Kroll made the most of his opportunities. I think he kept his head down and he played hard. I want to hope for good things for Lucas Kroll. Where's he out of, Tom? Is he out of Pittsburgh? Undrafted, I believe.
Yeah, I can't recall, but we saw Nate Adkins look like he was promising as well. He was a surprise and played early on, but just couldn't hold on the job and ended up getting benched. So you got a couple unknowns with Kroll and Adkins. What are they going to do? They look promising. We'll see where it goes. We know what we have in Troutman, and you just hope that Dulcich somehow, he's already on the injury list already again on the injury list. It's
nuts. Speaking of that injury list, what's going on with Pat Surtain? Is it a hamstring injury? I know they're really milking him. He's their best player, but he's been taking it easy, being careful. What have you heard about Pat Surtain thus far?
I haven't heard anything, but I'm not worried about him. As long as he doesn't get hurt, he's going to be fine. Like he can take off as much he can lollygag all he wants in minicamp, as far as I'm concerned, but he'll be just fine when it comes down to playing real football.
I know his fingers are still good because he was on Twitter the other day, Tom. And I don't know if you saw this, but Joey Porter, right? The shocker.
Right.
A Porter is saying some crazy things. Not as crazy as his old man, right? And I loved watching this old man play. His old man, that style of linebacker doesn't exist today in the NFL, as you know, Tom, but it was one of my favorites, right? It was a lot like Smoke Dog Al Wilson, right? It was a lot like some of these linebackers of yesteryear in the 90s and the 2000s that just you can't get away with it anymore here in 2024. But Joey Porter, Steelers cornerback, coming out there proclaiming he is the best cornerback in the NFL. What do you think of that, man? I mean, obviously Pat Surtain, one of the best in his own right, has made plenty of mistakes as well, right? Has some get back games that he still owes some of these famous wide receivers. Pat Surtain staring down the barrel of a gnarly season, facing some really good wide receiver ones in 2024.
There's something about cornerbacks that just they flap their gums like crazy. They think they're the greatest. They could be the worst, and they still will come out and say they're the best. It's kind of like wide receivers. They have both of them have big mouths, and you hope that their butts can cash the checks that their mouths write, or whatever, however the saying goes. And now he's out there saying that. So we're going to see if he can back that up. He's not the best cornerback, obviously. I mean, I still think Pat Surtain's the best cornerback in the NFL. He had a little bit of a rougher season under the right coach. I still don't like Vance Joseph as the coach. I think he could be all world every year for the next 3 or 4 years. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's no shortage of cornerbacks talking big games. That's for sure.
No, and you know what's going to make him the best cornerback really is when he gets paid. The Broncos and Pat Surtain should be working on a contract now, I hope. The Kansas City Chiefs former cornerback, what was it, L'Jarius Sneed, was traded to the Titans, and then he signed a 4-year, $51.5 million deal. Maybe that's why you're holding back on the $2 to $3 million. I don't know. You're pinching every penny that you got for Cortland Sutton. You're trying to figure out, how do we pay these long-term stars that we have plans for? It's tough to say. I mean, here we sit Wednesday, May 29th. Mandatory minicamp is right around the corner. For all of your news, guys, head on over to milehighhuddle.com. We've got Broncos articles running 24/7. Follow our pod as well at MHI_pod. If you'd like to reach out to Tom on Twitter, please do so at Thomas Hall NFL. If you'd like to talk to Scott, that's out Scout Kennedy, and yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Be sure to follow the mothership as well at Mile High Huddle. Subscribe, like, and share. Tom, another good show, another Wednesday in the books.
Yeah, thank you. It was better than, I mean, at least I didn't cough the entire show this time. So no, thanks for being here, everybody. It was great. I had a good time. Hopefully there'll be some more significant news next Wednesday that we can really get into.
Tom, if you're not feeling better by next Wednesday, you just need to start smoking cigarettes. Get that cough. I need a smoker's cough. If you're going to cough, Broncos country wants us. Yeah, we want a smoker's cough when you're laughing, so we can all laugh with you. Not necessarily at the joke, but we'll laugh at you in the cough or smoker's cough.
For me. I don't care as long as people are laughing.
There you go. Michael Rinquillo, he's never laughing. He's always showing us love. Great show tonight, Luke and Tom on MHI, and go Broncos. Guys, stay tuned for Broncos for Breakfast. The Mile High Huddle podcast will be back as well. And then, our guys on Saturday night, OBV, Ron White, and DVA. We appreciate you guys so much. Broncos country into OTAs. This is the way.
This is the way.